Hi everyone, welcome to our virtual college fair today in this session of navigating financial aid. My name is Claire and I'm going to be the facilitator today. I just have a couple of housekeeping items I'd like to go over. You can see them on the screen here, but I'll go ahead and go over them as well before I turn it over to Chandra to give the financial aid presentation. So first, if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to the presenters at any time. These questions are private, only myself and the presenter will be able to see them, no other attendees. Your camera and microphone are off, so we will not be able to see or hear you if you have any questions that you want to ask out loud. Again, just use that Q&A feature that we have. This is just one of the many different sessions happening tonight, so please do be sure to check out the full schedule at strivescan.com/Alaska. And this presentation is being recorded and will be available within a week at the same website. So if you miss anything or want to go back and see the information again, you'll be able to just go back to the same website and see this presentation. All right, so now I'd like to turn it over to our presenter, Chandra.
Thanks so much, Claire. Hello, everyone. My name is Chandra Talley, and I am one of our financial aid counselors here at UAA. And thank you all so much for tuning in to this financial aid webinar this evening. So I would just like to go over a couple of things as well before I share my screen with you all and get started. So we've got about 45 minutes today. So the presentation will last approximately about 30 minutes. So if you all have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat box. And I am going to be reserving about 10 to 15 minutes after the PowerPoint presentation to go through those questions. So again, if you're just now tuning in, feel free to put those questions in the chat box as we go, and then I'll be going through them at the end. And if for time's sake, if we run out of time and there's a lot of questions, I will be receiving your questions and your email afterwards, probably in about a week or so. So if I don't answer your question or we run out of time, then I will be following up with you via email as soon as I receive the list of questions, probably within a week or two. So just wanted to go over that first. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you all. Get that pulled up. Okay, and I'm actually, let me see here. I'm going to turn my video off while I'm presenting for bandwidth purposes. So, okay, so in this presentation, we're going to be talking all about navigating financial aid. So I'll be going over some of the different types of financial aid available, what you can do to apply for those types of financial aid, some of the paperwork that you might expect to have to turn in while you're going through the financial aid process, and then you can lose your financial aid if you're not making good grades. So we'll be talking about what you can do to make sure that you keep your financial aid. So financial aid is any money used to help students pay for college, and there are many different types of financial aid that come from many different sources. So the requirements for each type of financial aid is not a one-size-fits-all sort of thing. The most common types of financial aid that we see in our office come in the forms of scholarships, grants, and loans. Scholarships and grants are free money. They don't have to be repaid, whereas loans do have to be repaid later on. Scholarships, grants, and loans can come from a multitude of different sources. So some that we see come from federal sources, meaning they come from the federal government. Others are institutional sources, so meaning they come from your college or your university. And then others are private sources, meaning they could come from, for example, a bank or like a private student loan from a bank, or if you're receiving a scholarship from a native corporation. Those are some examples of private resources of financial aid. So the thing to keep in mind here again is one size does not fit all with financial aid. They're coming from a lot of different sources. So this is just a general overview of the financial aid process. So the first thing you'll want to do is apply for admission to the university. And then the next step is to complete what's called the FAFSA. So you've probably heard that before. That stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And we'll talk about that more in just a moment. Once you've applied for admission to the university and completed your FAFSA, then you'll want to monitor your email for updates as well as UA Online. And if you're not familiar with UA Online, it's sort of like your student portal for all things UAA. So that's going to be where you can register for classes, you can pay your bill, and you can check on your financial aid information. And then once you've got in all of your paperwork, and we will put your financial aid award offer in UA Online, so you can go there to accept or decline your financial aid award offer. So that's just a general overview of the financial aid process. So first, we'll talk a little bit about scholarships. So UAA does have several hundred scholarships available to students. The application date for these scholarships is always October 1st to February 15th of every year. You only need to do one application to be considered for all of these scholarships available at UAA. And I would like to point out that for new students, so I believe most of you all are in high school or are new incoming students, you actually don't need to do this particular scholarship. You only need to apply for admission to the university by February 15th, 2021 to be considered for these scholarships. So you don't have to do this application, just do the admissions application before February 15th. However, as a continuing student, once you're in your freshman, sophomore year, then you will actually need to go online and apply for this scholarship application once a year. So some of these scholarships are need-based, meaning they're based on your income information from the FAFSA, while others are merit-based, meaning they're based on your grades and your GPA. And you can apply for the UAA scholarships on our website. If you just Google UAA financial aid and go to the scholarships page, we have more information and there's a link to the scholarship portal there. And then I would like to point out that this application is always going to be for scholarships for the next academic year. So for example, if you applied for this application on October 1st, 2020, and let's say that you got a scholarship, you wouldn't be able to use that scholarship until the fall 2021 semester. So for new incoming students, if you apply for admission to the university, to UAA, before February 15th, 2021, and you're awarded a scholarship, you wouldn't be able to use that until the fall 2021 semester. So just something to keep in mind, this application is working several months in advance of before you actually start your classes at UAA. And then I did want to point out some other scholarship opportunities that are available through UAA. So the easiest way to find out more information about scholarship opportunities is just to pull up a Google search bar or any type of search engine and just type in UAA financial aid. And then you'll click on the first link that pops up, which is the link to our financial aid website. And then on our homepage, if you scroll down just a bit, you'll come across this section that says Get Help Quickly. Here you can click on the box that says Apply for Aid, Scholarships, and Student Employment. And that's where you can find out more information about other scholarship opportunities available at UAA. We do have a few lists of UAA specific scholarships on that website, as well as a list of scholarships that are available specifically for Alaskans. And there are some scholarship search engines on there as well. So I would definitely recommend that you all go check out that website. Now is the time to do that if you're planning to start in fall 2021. Go ahead and get started on that early, because sometimes scholarship applications have deadlines that are several months in advance before the semester you plan to attend. So next I'll chat just a little bit about the FAFSA, which, as I mentioned, is the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And you're probably going to start hearing this a lot if you haven't already, and you're probably going to be sick of hearing that word. So the FAFSA is the application for the federal Pell Grant, subsidized, unsubsidized loans, and the Parent Plus loan. And then some scholarships, such as the Alaska Performance Scholarship, use the FAFSA as their application. So essentially, it wants to know about your family's income to determine which types of federal financial aid you might qualify for. So if you've already gone onto the FAFSA website, you may have noticed that there are two FAFSAs available right now. The 2020-2021 FAFSA is for fall 2020, spring and summer 2021. And the 2021-2022 FAFSA is available for fall 2021 and spring, summer 2022. So if you all are in high school right now, if it's your senior year of high school, you're more than likely going to need to do the 2021-2022 FAFSA if you plan to start at UAA in fall 2021. So I know that can get a little confusing for students. A lot of times we do run into brand new students who unfortunately did the wrong FAFSA and they did all the extra paperwork for it, and then their financial aid was late because they had to go back and do the correct FAFSA. You just want to make sure before you do the FAFSA, make sure you're doing the correct one. And if you have any questions about which one that you need to do, don't hesitate to reach out to our office and we can give you the correct FAFSA to do. So one thing to keep in mind is when you do the FAFSA, you'll notice that it's going to ask for your income from 2 years prior. So if you're starting school during the fall 2021 semester next year, it's going to be based on your 2019 income. The deadline for each FAFSA is June 30th of every year. However, there's not really a deadline to do the FAFSA to get aid for each semester. So for example, let's say that you start classes next fall in August 2021, and then let's say it's October or November towards the end of the semester and you still haven't done the FAFSA, you can actually still do it even though the semester has already started, and you can still potentially get financial aid for that semester. So we recommend you do it early. They do open up on October 1st of every year. You're more likely to get scholarships and other types of aid if you do your FAFSA early. But if you do find yourself in that situation where it's later on, just feel free to get in touch with us. And if you have any questions about that, you can do your FAFSA even after the semester has started and still get financial aid potentially. So these are the types of federal aid that your FAFSA is the application for. There are subsidized and unsubsidized student loans. The main difference between these two is that the subsidized loan does not accrue interest while you're in school, at least part-time, whereas the unsubsidized loan starts accruing interest as soon as you take it out. So the subsidized loan is need-based. So your FAFSA income information determines how much subsidized student loan you qualify for. So not everyone will qualify for that. But if you do end up having to take out federal student loans, we recommend going with the subsidized loan if it's offered to you. The Pell Grant is free money. It does not have to be repaid. And like the subsidized loan, the Pell Grant is need-based, so not everyone will qualify for it. And then the Parent Plus loan is for parents of dependent students. It does require a credit check, and it typically has a higher interest rate than the sub or unsubsidized student loans. So the Parent Plus loan is kind of like a last resort kind of loan in a way. Normally, whenever we see students use Parent Plus loans, it's because they didn't have enough subsidized, unsubsidized loans and Pell Grant to cover the entire cost of their tuition. So they might use a Parent Plus loan to help cover whatever isn't covered by the other types of aid. So those are the 4 primary types of aid that students can receive by filling out the FAFSA. And I did want to touch on just some of the benefits of using federal student loans. You certainly don't want to use student loans if you don't have to, because you do have to repay them later. But the reality is college is expensive, and student loans can help students afford to be able to go to college. So they do typically have lower rates and fees than some private loans. Say if you got like a private loan from a bank or a credit union, they do have a 6-month grace period before repayment, and there are multiple repayment options available. And they don't require you to have a credit check or a cosigner. So if you're just out of high school and you don't have much credit history built up, these loans don't require a credit check. And you should really only use student loans after you've exhausted all your other financial aid options, such as grants and scholarships, which are free money, or if your parents aren't able or willing to contribute to the cost of your college education. A lot of times, students who are getting the non-resident tuition rate, which is higher for out-of-state people, they will use federal student loans to help cover their tuition. And then if you have an emergency expense during the semester that impacts your ability to complete your classes, that might be a time to use a student loan as well. So for example, let's say that all your classes are online and then right in the middle of the semester, your laptop crashes and won't work. You might consider taking out a student loan for $1,000 to buy a new laptop so you can finish your classes for the semester. So those are just some examples of when students might use student loans. Um, you don't want to just accept all the amount of all your loans offered to you without really taking a look at what your costs are and figuring out what the least amount of loans is that you can get by with. That's when students tend to rack up a lot of student loan debt, is whenever they use the loans and they don't really take the time to figure out exactly how much they need. So we are available for students. If you have any questions about student loans or you'd like to do a cost analysis of how much it might cost you to attend UAA and how much loans you can get by with, feel free to get in contact with us at the financial aid office. We'd be happy to make an appointment with you, and one of our financial aid counselors can go over all of that information with you. And there are a few points of cautions with loans. So they do have to be repaid with interest. Your credit score can be negatively impacted if you fail to make payments once you go into repayment. Your paychecks can be garnished if you don't make payments, and you might have to set some other life goals aside. So if it's your goal to buy a house or to travel the world, it might be a little bit harder to do that if you have a $300 or $400 student loan payment due every month. And then it can be a huge burden to know that you owe a lot of student debt. So the moral of the story is just borrow wisely and only take what you need. Again, if you're unsure of what it is that you need, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to go over that with you and help you get by with the least amount of student loans as possible. So next I'm going to chat a little bit about the Federal Work Study program. So a federal work study is essentially a job while you're on campus. You can work up to 20 hours a week at a campus job. These jobs are very flexible with your class schedule. It's a great work experience and opportunity to network. So if you already have a job, say at like the mall or at a restaurant or somewhere, you might consider once you're in college looking into doing a work study or getting a job on campus, just so you have more flexibility with your class schedule. A great example of how a work study job turned into a great work experience is some of our employees in the financial aid office actually started off working in the financial aid office as student workers, and some positions came available and they applied for those, and that actually turned into a full-time job for them while they were still in college. So one of our workers, she was a junior in college and she applied and got a full-time job in the financial aid office where she was a student worker. And one of the benefits of being a full-time UAA employee is that you get tuition waivers. So she actually was able to pay off the last year or two of her college tuition using tuition waivers, where she was working in the financial aid office while she was still in school. So that's just a great opportunity that you can think of if you play your cards right and you really strategize about how to pay for college. That doing a work study can be a great way to alleviate any student loan debt that you might have to take out if you get tuition waivers. So if you're interested in doing a work study, you'll want to complete the FAFSA. There is a question on there that asks if you're interested in doing the work study program. You'll want to select yes. And then you'll go to UAA's Human Resources website and apply for jobs on UAA's resources website, just like you would any other job, and go through the application and interview process and get hired. So next, I want to chat about the IRS data retrieval tool. So this is a tool that's located in the FAFSA, And it's used to link your IRS tax transcript directly to your FAFSA. So that way you don't have to answer a lot of the income questions on the FAFSA. So this is what it looks like when you are on the FAFSA. If you click on link to IRS, it will take you to this page, and it's going to give you the option to skip or proceed to the IRS site. Definitely don't want to skip it. I would definitely recommend you go ahead and click on proceed to IRS site, and it will take you to the irs.gov website where you can enter some general information to look up your tax information. And if it's able to locate you or your parents' tax return, this is what it's going to look like. So you can just check the box and click transfer now to link your tax information back to the FAFSA. And as you can see towards the bottom on the questions there, it input some of the tax informations from the IRS. So it was able to link that back, and you don't have to answer those questions. So it does speed up the FAFSA process quite a bit. And I know the income tax information questions on the FAFSA can be really confusing sometimes. So this helps autofill in some of those questions. So not everyone will be able to use the IRS data retrieval tool, but if you are eligible for it, we definitely recommend using that. So you've applied for admission to the university, you've completed the FAFSA and done all of your other paperwork. What else do you need to do? So this is where you're going to want to check UA Online. And as I mentioned, it's your portal for all things UAA. So financial aid has its own section. If you click on the financial aid tab and then click on financial aid status, that's where you can check the status of your financial aid. So if you have any other paperwork left to turn in, it's going to say you have unsatisfied student requirements for this aid year. If you click on that student requirements link, it's going to take you to a page that shows you exactly what other paperwork you have to turn in. So there should normally be a link there where you can go complete the form online, or we'll have a description letting you know what else you need to turn in. And you can check the status of it as well. If it says needed, that means we still need it. Or if you've already submitted it and haven't heard back anything, it might say received but not yet reviewed. Or if it's been processed, it might say completed. You can also check here on the bottom under satisfied requirements. You can see when we received your FAFSA as well. So definitely, I would recommend to check out UA Online and get comfortable with using it, because you can find out a lot of useful information about the status of your financial aid in there. And then once you have completed all of your paperwork, we will list your financial aid award offer in UA Online. So this screen can look a little intimidating. It's got a lot of information on it, but as you can see here, this is where we'll put your Pell Grant, your work study offer, subsidized and unsubsidized student loans. So types of free money like the Pell Grant, we automatically accept those for you. But if you plan to use federal subsidized or unsubsidized student loans, you actually need to come in here and accept or decline those loans. And if you are going to use federal student loans, this is important. You will need to complete what's called the Master Promissory Note and Entrance Loan Counseling. So the Master Promissory Note is basically an online promise to repay. You just have to go online and electronically sign it. And the entrance loan counseling is like a 30-minute online web module that educates you about how the loans and loan repayment work. So those two things do have to be completed if you're planning to use federal student loans. So don't forget to do those. And so next, I want to chat a little bit about what you have to do to continue receiving financial aid, because you can lose it if you're not meeting what's called satisfactory academic progress. So the first component of SAP, as we call it, is that you have to maintain a minimum 2.0 cumulative GPA to continue receiving financial aid. So that's cumulative. So it's meaning it's any courses that you attempt throughout the UA system. So if you're taking classes through UAF in Fairbanks or UAS in Juneau, any of those campuses, that cumulative, the GPA you receive from the classes at those schools are calculated in this cumulative GPA. So that one's pretty straightforward. The next component of SAP where students get a little confused is called the 67% completion ratio. So all that means is that out of all the classes you attempt within the UA system, you have to be passing at least 67% of those. in order to maintain your eligibility for financial aid. So here are just a few examples of what that might look like per semester. If you attempt 12 credits, you pass 9 and you fail 3, your completion ratio would be at 75%, so you'd still be eligible. If you attempt 12 credits, pass 6 and fail 6, your completion ratio would be at 50%, so below that 67%, so you would be ineligible. And then if you attempt 12 credits, you pass 8 and you withdraw from 4, you withdrawing from a class and getting a W grade, then you would be at 66.6%, but we would round that up to 67%. So you would still technically be eligible. So that one is really important to keep in mind. A lot of times students will withdraw from classes to preserve their GPA and maintain a high GPA. But keep in mind that we're not just looking at the GPA, we're also looking at your pass rate or your completion ratio. So don't withdraw too much because you might get in trouble and lose financial aid if you fall below that 67% completion ratio. And the last component of SAP is called the 150% maximum time frame. So the easiest way to explain this is just to look at this visual chart. So essentially, this means that you have a maximum amount of credit hours you can attempt before you are in that 150% status. So for example, if you are in a 4-year bachelor degree, if you have attempted 180 credits and you still haven't graduated, then you're going to be in that 150% status. So as new incoming freshmen, you all probably don't have to worry about this one so much. We normally see this if students change their major halfway through college and then they have a lot of credits that don't apply to their new major. They might get in that 150% status, or a lot of times we'll see it if a student already has a bachelor degree and they wanted to come back and get another bachelor degree, they might be in that 150% status. So that's just something to keep in mind later on once you're in college. But right now, you probably just need to focus on maintaining the 2.0 cumulative GPA and the 67% completion ratio. So if you do fall below those, the GPA and the completion ratio, we don't take your financial aid away immediately. We do give you a chance to redeem yourself. So the semester after you fall below the GPA and or completion ratio will be your financial aid warning semester. So you can still receive financial aid during that warning semester. And as long as you are back above the 2.0 GPA or the completion ratio at the end of your warning semester, then your financial aid status will go back into good standing and everything will go back to normal. However, if you aren't able to get back up to 2.0 or 67% at the end of your warning semester, then your financial aid will be suspended. So if you do find yourself in that situation and your financial aid is suspended, we do have an appeal process you can go through. So essentially, to submit an appeal, you would need to meet with an academic advisor. They would need to create a degree plan for you. You would have to complete what's called a SAP appeal form on our website, and that's basically where you explain what happened that caused you to not be successful in your classes. And you do have to submit supporting documentation with that. So these are just a few examples of what are considered extenuating circumstances and what are not. So examples of extenuating circumstances include if you have a death in the family, you have a medical emergency, if you're in the military and you become deployed, if you have an unexpected and involuntary loss of childcare, or any other unusual circumstances out of your control that can be documented. Those are examples of situations that might warrant a SAP appeal approval. However, these examples are not considered extenuating circumstances. So youthfulness, immaturity, or lack of focus, if the coursework was too difficult or you attempted too many credits, any student-instructor conflicts or transportation conflicts, poor time management, and then work conflicts unless you can provide evidence of extenuating circumstances and sufficient supporting documentation. So those are a few examples of extenuating circumstances, and hopefully you don't get to the point where you have to submit an appeal. But if you ever do feel like you're struggling with your classes, feel free to reach out to the financial aid office. We are here to help you. We are not here to judge you. And we would be more than happy to do some what if scenarios with you and help you figure out the best course of action to keep your financial aid. So, again, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. We're happy to help you handle any type of situation like this. And then lastly, I just wanted to go over some important dates for the fall 2021 semester. So these are for next year during 2021. June 30th is the FAFSA deadline for the Alaska Performance Scholarship. So you do need to submit your 2021-2022 FAFSA before June 30th, but for the UAA scholarship, you need to submit your 2021-2022 FAFSA before February 15th. So I would recommend that you submit it way before that, before on February 15th, so you don't miss out on any of UAA scholarships. And then July 1st is the priority FAFSA deadline to receive your financial aid in time for the fall 2021 semester. So if you submit your FAFSA after July 1st, we can't guarantee that you'll have financial aid before the start of classes on August 23rd. So as long as you do your 2021-2022 FAFSA before July 1st, then you shouldn't have any delays with your financial aid. And then the next date on here is September 3rd, which is the add drop deadline. This is probably one of the most important dates to remember. Each semester is the add drop deadline. So essentially, after classes start, you have about 10 days to decide if you want to stay in that class without penalty. If you drop your class after September 3rd, it's no longer considered a drop, but it's considered a withdrawal. And withdrawals mean that you get a W grade, which can hurt your SAP completion ratio, which can potentially cause you to lose your financial aid. So if you start classes and say that you have a feeling that it's not going to go well and maybe you just don't like the professor's teaching style, you might want to consider dropping before the add drop deadline. That way you'll be refunded for the cost of the class. But again, if you withdraw after the add drop deadline and get a W grade, you'll still be responsible for the cost of the class and you won't get a refund on it. So very important date. Feel free to take a picture of this slide and remember the add drop deadline. And then the payment deadline is on September 13th. So if you still owe a balance to UAA on 5 p.m. on September 13th, you will incur a $125 late fee. Some schools will kick you out of classes if you still owe on the payment deadline, but UAA doesn't do that. You just get the late fee. And then October 1st is when the new FAFSA and the UAA scholarship application open up for the next year. So definitely we recommend that you start things early. Pretty much the earlier the better. If you do things late, there's still, you can still get financial aid, but your chances of getting scholarships are probably going to be reduced, and then you run the possibility of getting late fees. So definitely make sure you're staying on top of things, do it early. And then if you all have any questions, we'll be beginning our question and answer period here in just a moment. But if you have any questions, we do recommend you check UA Online first. If you're a UA student, you can find the answers to most of your questions in UA Online. And it's a great opportunity for you to get comfortable navigating UA Online. But you can also contact the financial aid office via phone or email. We would be more than happy to answer any questions you have. Our office is located in the Enrollment Services Center in the Student Union. However, we are currently closed due to the pandemic, and we were most recently notified that we'll be closed through the spring 2021 semester. So just keep up to date on, you'll probably see it in the news or receive emails about it when we open back up, hopefully sometime next year. But in the meantime, if you would like to chat with a counselor or set up an appointment, we can host consultations for financial aid via Zoom. So don't hesitate to contact us via email or phone if you would like to set up a consultation. So those are all the slides I have, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And looks like we've got a few questions in here. So I'll go ahead and answer some of those. So it looks like when in your first year of college, how does the 67% completion ratio work? That is a great question. So essentially, if you're a brand new student and you don't have any like previous college history, your 67% completion ratio is pretty much good during your first year. Let's say that we really won't start checking your completion ratio until after your first semester. So if you attend in fall 2021, we won't start checking your completion ratio and GPA until spring 2022. So for example, it can be a little bit harder on first-time freshmen. It's a little less forgiving. Let's say if you attend classes during fall 2021, you take 12 credits, and then you had to withdraw from, say, 9 of those credits because of a family emergency or other extenuating circumstance, then your warning semester would be spring 2022. So you need to make sure you take enough credits to get your completion ratio back up during spring 2022 to continue receiving financial aid in future semesters. But it's best, especially for first-time freshmen or new incoming students, to, if you feel like you're in that situation where your classes aren't going well and you feel like you're not going to pass or you might need to withdraw, it's definitely best to check with the financial aid office before you do that. So that way we can help you plan out the next few semesters. So hopefully you can regain your SAP eligibility without having to submit an appeal. Okay, and that looks like all the questions we have for now. So we still have a few minutes left. So I would like to go over just a couple of events that we have coming up soon. The Financial Aid Office does have FAFSA Fridays going on right now. And we also have some UAA scholarship workshops going on as well. So the FAFSA Friday workshops, well, they're not really workshops, but they're appointments. You can go on to the UAA Master Calendar website. There's a link there where you can submit a appointment request form if you want some assistance with your FAFSA. We can set up a Zoom appointment with you and or your parents and help you get your FAFSA completed. And that's open even if you're not planning on going to UAA. You're still welcome to sign up for one of those appointments, and we can go over all of that information with you and help you get your FAFSA completed. And then we've also got some scholarship workshops going on now until February 15th. They do have an emphasis on the UAA scholarship application that is open until February 15th. So like I said, you all don't need to apply for that application. However, if you are planning to search for other scholarships, still feel free to attend out one of our workshops. We have a lot of really useful information that would help for other scholarships as well. We have a few handouts on scholarship essay writing that could be really beneficial for you. And we also go through some of the scholarship opportunities on our financial aid website. So I'll actually go ahead and share my screen with you again and show you where you can go to find out more information about those. If you just, oh, actually, let me hide this here. If you just type in UAA Master Calendar and click on the first link that comes up, you'll see UAA's events calendar. And the easiest way to find it is if you type in financial aid in the search bar here. You'll see all of the financial aid events coming up here soon. So you can see that we actually have a scholarship workshop tomorrow. And it just gives you a little information about the workshop, and then you can register for the workshop by clicking on the form. So definitely encourage you all, if you are in high school and you're starting to look for scholarships, even though you're not required to submit the UAA scholarship application, we still go over some useful information for other scholarships as well. So feel free to tune into those. They are free. And then on that same calendar, you'll see that we've got our FAFSA Friday events going on. So there's some information here. We also have a FAFSA tutorial video on YouTube that you can go watch if you want to do the FAFSA yourself. It is for the 2020-2021 FAFSA, but they're pretty much the same. You could use this video for the 2021-2022 FAFSA as well. And then we also have some other videos too about how to use the data retrieval tool in creating your FSA ID, as well as some more FAFSA resources here. And then if you want to set up an appointment, we have another form that you can complete to request a FAFSA Friday appointment. So definitely feel free to check those out. We'd love to have you, help you get all that stuff situated. And we still have a few more minutes, so I will show you our UAA financial aid website live, so that way you can know where to go to look for other scholarship opportunities. So again, I just Googled it and clicked on the first link. And then if you scroll down a little bit, here is that Get Help Quickly area. And you can click on Apply for Aid, Scholarships, and Student Employment. And this goes through all the steps of the financial aid process, from the FAFSA to applying for scholarships. But the part you'll probably want to look at is read about scholarships available for use at UAA. And if you click the drop-down menu, you'll see that there's a list here of different scholarships offered through UAA. And you can click the drop-down menu to read more about those. So I would definitely recommend that on your own time, while you're cooped up in the house from the pandemic, this would be a great time to go check out some of these scholarship opportunities. And then on the bottom drop-down menu here, we've got some links to private scholarship resources for Alaskans. You can see Alaska and national private scholarships. There's some more here that you can check out. And then we've also got some scholarship search engines as well that you can take a look at. I really like this CapEx one. This one's pretty neat because you can filter scholarships from least competition to most competition. So you're more likely to get a scholarship if there's less competition. But yeah, feel free to go check out some of those. There's some really great resources on this website. So
Hey, Chandra,
yes.
we did get another question, and I'll read it to you right now.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Can we use WUI for scholarships to UAA?
Great question. So that would probably be a better question for the admissions office. They handle the WUI stuff. But yeah, I would definitely recommend that you reach out to admissions about that. And Claire, do you know if the admissions has like any people here they could speak to tonight, or would it be better for them to maybe email for more information about WUI?
Yeah, so I can actually answer that question. If any student is coming from a WUI state, so like Washington, Oregon, California, there's a whole list of them. You can find them online. When you list your address on your application, our computer system will automatically mark you as coming from a WUI state. And WUI is not so much a scholarship, but just a discounted tuition. So you won't see it as a scholarship, but you'll see that tuition rate charged to you. So automatically, if you're from a WUI state, you'll get that status. There's no application. It works for all of our degree programs, undergraduate and graduate. So you'll get that discounted tuition. That's about 150% of the resident tuition.
Perfect. Thank you so much for hopping in to help answer that question, Claire. But yeah, that's everything I have as far as financial aid. I hope you all found this helpful and had some, hopefully you found some good resources to take a look into to help with your scholarship search. And again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to the financial aid office, and we would be more than happy to go over that information with you.
All right, so just wrapping up here, I'd like to thank you all for joining us. I hope you learned a lot about financial aid. Just so you know, when you close this window, there is going to be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. If you could please fill that out, we'd really appreciate it. And then this, again, is just one of many sessions being hosted, so please be sure to sign up for additional sessions at the link on the screen, www.strivescan.com/Alaska. And in about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recording. So there's a lot of information given to you. You can always go back and rewatch the recording to see that information again, as well as other sessions are going to be recorded. So if there was a session you wanted to go to but couldn't make it because there's so many overlapping sessions, you can go watch that one as well there. All right, and with that, thank you again for coming. I'm going to go ahead and end the session, and it's going to automatically log you guys all off, okay? Again, thank